Hello, fire starters. It's been a long time, and I wish I had some excuse, but I've enjoyed my summer and a little bit of the outdoors, and we also served on different camps. I'm not really sure why this has taken me so long to finally get my notes together. I've actually had them together for a while, but I guess actually finally record them. Like I promised some time ago, today we're going to discuss the book of Start With Why by Simon Sinek. My interest in this topic, as well as the reasons why behind selecting the book, was generated from a mentoring class that our Leadership Academy held in the spring. And it was done by Kathy Millar, who we had early on in the process of this podcast. She was episode number 13, believe it or not. It was called Kathy Millar, Freedom, Mentoring, and Homeschooling was the name of her podcast. And I really recommend her coming to your area and teaching a class on mentoring because it was really excellent and I learned a lot from it. Anyway, during the simulation she did with us, we were given a situation where, due to catastrophic events, our time was limited with our kids. So thinking about this, how would limited time with your children change the things that you taught them or the things that you did with them? What things would you want them to know? And what would be essential information and what would be non-essential information? Well, folks, I hate to tell you this, but the time with your children is limited. At least the time that they are acceptable to your teaching. Oddly enough, we discover as homeschool parents, or parents in general, we spend a lot of precious time teaching our children non-essential information. In fact, I read an article which I posted on our Facebook page, so you might want to scroll back and see it. Sometimes I post there more than other places. I read an article about how college-age children are coming to school, coming to college, struggling with life skills such as cooking and laundry, just taking care of themselves, or balancing a checkbook. And I'm sure that many of these children are coming to college, that they could do a difficult algebra equation, but sadly, we failed them to give them vital skills of just taking care of themselves. Many of these students also lacked character development or strong ethical core to help them when they're making difficult decisions. This post, in general, is a great one to reflect on during this time, as many of us begin a new school year. And like I said, I'm kind of late. I don't know why I have put this off. Anyway, this post is meant to be a discovery, or it was for me, of why we do the things that we do and help us to pinpoint, hopefully spark some learning and help us to pinpoint what that why may be. In my observation, I have noticed that families that have a clear why are more successful in having strong family bonds and also highly educated children. People in general who do things out of fear of exposure of what might happen, many times they don't have the stamina to persist when times get tough. However, people with the why not only persist, but they thrive. Hopefully in this discussion, it will help spark your why or rekindle it if it's gone dim. So let's light it up.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bohman.
This book, Start With Why, by Simon Sinek, was really excellent. I really loved it. Like I said in the intro, a lot of the truths to the reason he lays out in the books that I've seen in life, in real life. And one of the joys of being older is we have something called experience, which really is the best teacher. Even though this book does primarily focus on business, I saw many ways I could incorporate the teaching into my home, my family, and even my podcast. So first of all, I'm going to start out with the two types of leaders. So to begin this book, first, I want you to think about the two types of leaders that I know to which we have all been subject to. So the first leader is one that controls people with incentive or threat or manipulation or even scare tactics. We've all seen this type of leader, and I have to admit, at times, I've been this type of leader, this type of parent or teacher. I would guess that 90% of teachers or leaders use this method. I know that I've used this tactic because, like the book likes to point out, it is easy and it works sometimes, or at least impartially. So with this method, we can get people to do what we want very easily. Manipulation works, at least for the short term. We have all seen or been the parent who offers ice cream to get children to behave. However, maybe you've also seen children who struggle to behave once they forget about the ice cream, or if there isn't a way to incentivize them, they don't behave at all or do what they're told. It is difficult to substitute for a class for a teacher who does incentives. But don't get me wrong, sometimes incentives can get people to do something and then habit, or they find an enjoyment of it, a mere enjoyment for it. That keeps the momentum going. However, as a parent, I think one of my biggest fears will be the moment that my children will leave my home, leave the nest. And that seems scary to me because it will be a moment of truth to see if their actions really match their true character, or if my use of incentives is the only reason for their good behavior. I'm hoping that my home feels safe for them to discuss their true feelings and actions so that this moment isn't a surprise for me. The book talks about truly great leaders, the second type of leader. Great leaders don't give people something to work on. They give people something to work towards. Great leaders also create an environment to create good ideas. Great leaders have the ability to inspire others to act. They create a sense of purpose or belonging. We follow them not because we have to, but because we really want to follow them. We feel loyal to them, and we may even feel love for them and feel passionate about their cause or their teaching. I'm pretty sure that you know at least one leader or teacher that stirs these emotions. What sets the first leader, who uses threat, intimidation, and incentive, apart from the second leader? The second leader, the one we love and revere, to which we have loyalty, seems to have a strong sense of why. They help us feel that purpose, and we gravitate towards them. They draw us in with their sense of why. Long-lasting success in leadership begins with starting with why. If we want to influence and build relationships of trust and see people move in positive directions, we need to start with why. I don't think there's any coincidence that kids ask why when they're really young. If you've ever been around little kids, they ask that a lot. Maybe that's God's way of helping to instinctively spark a purpose to our why. When they're asking why, then maybe we can gain a why, an understanding of why we're doing something. Every one of us feels motivated by purpose, and questions are a good way to help spark our why. I like questions. Okay, so the next part of my audio blog is making assumptions. So I want to go back and help identify the first leader so that we can avoid creating this style of leadership. We make assumptions about the world around us, and sometimes we get results based on false assumptions. Many times, making assumptions are the way that we've been manipulated through all sorts of avenues, such as schools, churches, organizations, or even advertising. To understand manipulation, it is anything that is like a carrot or a stick. A carrot in gaining something through manipulation, like an award or a prize, and a stick through fear or punishment, and sometimes they go hand in hand. We see this one a lot in society that tells us to act based on fear of what might happen. We have a lot of fear of what might happen. I've done it, and when I didn't really even want to follow or believe that action was best, I acted out of fear and followed that. Another manipulation can be peer pressure, or the feeling of missing out, or the feeling that everyone else must know better. I hear this in the voice of parents who express a desire that they want to homeschool, but they have that fear. They have a fear of not fitting in. They have a fear that their children will miss out on things, everything including Brahm. So tell me you've heard this too. You've heard this before. Everywhere we look, we can see the use of fear. There is more fear in the world than there is faith. And in my opinion, the faith is our why. something that inspires us to greatness instead of just offering blind obedience through fear. Let me say that again. Faith, not fear, is the answer to greatness. Faith, not fear, is the answer to greatness. So how do we create this greatness and get the best results with our decisions? So I loved one of the first stories about the American car manufacturer tour of the Japanese auto industry. So the American manufacturers noticed that the door hammering process was missing from the Japanese assembly line, and they asked at what point in the process did they make sure that the doors fit the car. And this confused the Japanese as they made sure that the pieces fit from the start in the design. We need to figure out our design and our purpose and fit it from the beginning. We're going to continue this discovery of creating greatness with the golden circle, which he discusses in the book, which is an alternative perspective. In essence, it is to inspire instead of manipulate. A golden ratio can be applied in a variety of ways. It begins when people start asking why. The best way to visualize this is with the layers of a bullseye. And I have a picture of this. So the outside circle we have is the what. Then the middle layer is the how. And right in the center of the bullseye is the why. The why is the belief or the vision. The how is the action we take to get there. And the what is what other people see we produce. So inspiring companies start in the middle, and they begin asking why. Same way with families, when we begin asking why. In the same way, inspiring others needs to start with why. And sometimes as a parent, I'm certainly guilty of this. We talk about and begin with the how or the what. We want to tell them about the end products or how they should be doing something. So let me explain. How many times do we teach our children and start with the mechanics? So thinking religiously, we put forth all the things or the ways our children should behave. But if they don't understand the why behind the actions, or their actions will seem really hollow, and really in the end, they may not hold to those actions. And then they also may resent me in the end because they have mistaken the idea that my love for them is very conditional and it's based on the how and the what actions. However, if I start with why we do certain actions, and then I model a behavior that goes with the why, then they may in the end choose to follow and take that why into their own soul and pick up the how and the what naturally. They will also understand that my love for them isn't based on their actions or the how, but on the why. Another example that I want to give is in scouting. So if you've ever looked at any of my personal pictures on social media, it won't take you very long to see that I'm very involved in scouting. However, the reasons I'm involved in scouting is because of their why. I don't necessarily like the camping, but the values behind the camping. The founder of scouting said, "Scouting is a game with a purpose." But unfortunately, some people see the how and the what, and they don't understand the why. They see kids going camping, earning merit badges, and then becoming adults that become something great. Some people, in fact, think doing these things create greatness, but it is the why of the scouting oath and law that creates the product, not the fact that they become an Eagle Scout. Parents strive for their kids to be an Eagle, and they think that it is an important goal in scouting. But really, the first-class scout level is the most important to achieve because it starts with internalizing the scout oath and law that makes them the best scout. The founder of scouting, Baden-Powell, said, "The scout oath and law are our binding disciplinary force." And really, that is when we have the why, we don't need to have the how or the what because they'll naturally move toward the how and the what with the why. Anyway, another aspect of creating greatness to help move us is the creation of your why. Into your why is trust. Greatness in ourselves and in others, our why has to be something honest that people can trust. We'll talk more about this later, but some examples of trust are like a circus performer with a net. The performer is able to do amazing stunts on a high wire better because of the trust in the net. Would they even dare to make the first attempt at the new skill without the net? I would say no. Creating an environment where people can take risks has to do with trust. Real trust comes from things that you can't see. So leaders understand to serve those who you serve. So great leaders understand that they need to serve those who serve them. Trust is vital to get people to follow the why. Being a leader who wins the hearts and minds, with the heart being the why, but with the mind of how and what. So let's talk about creating your why and becoming a great leader. So to create a why and begin creating greatness, first of all, a lot of times we overthink our why and we make the choice really more difficult than it needs to be. Many times trusting your own gut of what feels right for you, the values that inspire you, are the best place to start in formulating your why. It is what you can't see that matters, the authenticity of your soul. In fact, with the golden circle, it is complete when the why of our vision reflects our how or behavior and our what of the fruit that we produce. When we're truly authentic, those things act accordingly without any sort of force. So in leadership, those whose actions or how are inconsistent with their why create a split in their receptibility, and I'm making that word up there, to their message. No one will follow a hypocrite very well. Actions end up being the teacher. So select your why to what feels most authentic to you. At the end of the book, he talks about the origins of why, or the beginning of why, which he does looking back at formative years. I think that this was one of my favorite parts of the book because it caused me to reflect on my own formative whys and helped me to solidify and understand the origins of why I love questions and unique thinking so much. Looking back to where those first thoughts came from really can help us formulate our why much better. So when I did this exercise on the origins of this podcast and keywords for me like paradigm change, lighting minds on fire, and how they all relate to education, it caused me to reflect on one experience in my youth. And I briefly mentioned this on a Facebook Live video that I did a little while back, but I'll reiterate it again. So at the time when I was growing up that I was dating somebody of a different religion of mine. My parents encouraged me to attend this person's church and then start asking questions, to question my faith and their faith and the similarities and differences between both of them. So what did I believe in was really on my mind as a youth. What did I believe in? Did I believe both of them, or did I believe one over the other? What felt most like the truth? This took several years of questioning to finally realize my own beliefs. So this questioning strengthened my faith. It also set a course for me to question more, for me to challenge my assumptions, and it brought me to homeschooling, my current political views, and this podcast of talking to people to hear their paradigm-changing stories. It has helped me to outline an ebook that I'm working on steps of illuminating our learning that I hope to share with you all very, very soon. So think back to times in your life that help stick out in your mind because it may hold to your why of what's important to you. So to close my thoughts on this audio blog of starting with why, I just want to encourage you to formulate questions and think through the thoughts of what you are about, what you're projecting to the world through your actions and words, and then finally, if it's all authentic. I'm saying this last part mostly for myself because to absorb the thoughts in our lives, it does take some teaching, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm striving to learn the skill of video and live discussion, which is really uncomfortable for me because I love the edit button. I think I've talked about that a lot on my podcast. So please join me on Facebook and or YouTube and comment or ask questions, and let's start some great discussions. So please remember that we grow through subscribers and downloads and reviews in iTunes and YouTube. Also, please share with your friends and family. Encourage them to listen and join our community. Through sharing, we can grow this community. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about our audio blog, The Spark, go to theluminousmind.net. Be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list and get our new monthly newsletter. Then check out the Services tab to see how we can continue to assist you, our fire starters. Also, to help us continue production of inspiring content, go to the Sponsor tab at theluminousmind.net for more information on sponsorship and affiliate programs. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, and now Instagram. Get our free audio content by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. To help us grow, consider these easy ways. Tell your friends about us, leave us a review, share our content. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.